3 days of hiding had taught Leo Frost that the purple rocks made better shelter than the blue ones. The purple ones stayed cool even when the twin suns blazed overhead, and their cracks went deep enough to hide an 8-year-old boy and his best friend. Scraps lay across Leo's lap, the honey badger's gray and black fur warm against his legs. Every few minutes those dark eyes would scan the horizon, watching for danger that Leo's human senses might miss. Leo pressed his back against the cave wall and tried not to think about his mother. Ambassador Rita Frost had been right beside him when the transport ship made its emergency landing. Then the hull breach happened, and smoke filled everything and people were shouting to evacuate. Leo ran the wrong direction. By the time he realized his mistake, the ship was already lifting off for emergency repairs, and he was alone on Draven 7 with nothing but his emergency pack and scraps. The honey badger shifted position and made a low rumbling sound. Not quite a growl, but close. Leo had learned that sound meant something was moving in the distance. He carefully peeked around the rock formation and felt his stomach drop. Soldiers. Big ones. Their armor gleamed dark red in the sunlight, and they moved in formation like they knew exactly what they were hunting. Harvok troops. Leo had seen them during his mother's diplomatic meetings. The reptilian species stood over 7 feet tall, with scales that could deflect small arms fire and claws that could tear through metal. They ruled this sector of space through military might, and they did not like humans very much. His mother had spent months negotiating trade agreements with their government, trying to build peaceful relations. Leo doubted these soldiers cared about peace treaties. He pulled deeper into the cave, clutching Scraps close. The honey badger tolerated the tight hug for exactly 3 seconds before squirming free and padding toward the cave entrance. Leo grabbed for him and missed. Scraps planted himself at the opening. That flat face pointed toward the approaching soldiers, and absolutely refused to move when Leo tried to pull him back. The emergency rations in Leo's pack were down to 2 bars. His water purifier still worked, but the local streams tasted like metal no matter how many times he filtered them. Scraps had been catching the local wildlife, small rat-like creatures that squeaked and tried to bite. The honey badger caught them anyway, killed them with brutal efficiency and dragged them back to share. Leo had been too hungry to refuse after the first day. Now those hunting skills might not be enough. Leo counted at least 8 Harvok soldiers spreading out across the rocky terrain. They carried weapons that hummed with energy, the kind that could punch through the cave walls if they wanted. Their leader, marked by extra insignia on his armor, pointed directly at Leo's hiding spot and barked orders in their harsh language. Leo understood enough Harvok to know they had found his tracks. 3 days of careful hiding, undone by one careless walk to the stream that morning. He had gotten comfortable. Stupid. His mother always said being comfortable in dangerous places was how people got hurt. The soldiers moved closer. 50 yards, 40. Scraps lowered his head and that rumbling sound got deeper. Leo had only seen Scraps truly angry once, when a neighbor's dog tried to attack Leo at a park back on Earth. The dog outweighed the honey badger by 60 pounds. It ran away bleeding from a dozen wounds while Scraps barely had a scratch. These soldiers were much bigger than that dog. Please don't, Leo whispered, knowing Scraps wouldn't understand or listen. Honey badgers were famous for 2 things: not caring about danger and never backing down from a fight. His mother had approved Scraps as a companion animal because honey badgers were protective and loyal. She probably had not imagined they would end up in a situation like this. 30 yards. The Harvok leader, the one the others called Grend, raised one clawed hand and signaled a halt. He activated a communicator on his wrist and spoke rapidly. Leo caught fragments about a human child, about opportunity, about leverage. His chest went tight. They were not here to rescue him. They were here to capture him. Grend's voice changed, became louder, directed at the cave. The translation device in Leo's pack automatically converted the words, "small human." "Come out. We will not harm you if you cooperate. You are lost. We will return you to your people." The lies were so obvious that Leo almost laughed. Almost. Fear kept the sound locked in his throat. Scraps made a different noise now, high-pitched and sharp. Leo had never heard that sound from him before. It raised the hair on the back of his neck. "We know you are in there, soft-skinned child. Come out or we will come in. You have 10 seconds to comply." Leo looked at Scraps. The honey badger looked back at him with those intelligent dark eyes. Some people thought animals could not understand complex situations. Those people had never bonded with an Earth predator. Scraps knew exactly what was happening. He knew those soldiers meant harm, and he was absolutely not going to let them hurt Leo. "Scraps, no," Leo said quietly. "There's too many, please." The honey badger turned back to face the cave entrance. His muscles bunched under that loose skin, ready to spring, ready to fight. "Time is up, human. We are coming in." The first soldier entered the ravine leading to Leo's cave. Then another. Then 4 more, weapons raised, moving in tactical formation. They looked confident. They looked like this would be easy. Gren stayed back, supervising, already talking on his communicator about a successful capture. Leo pressed himself against the back wall. Scraps took 3 steps forward and planted himself in the middle of the cave entrance. 25 pounds of honey badger against hundreds of pounds of armored soldiers. The math was impossible. The lead soldier laughed, a hissing sound through his helmet. He said something in Harvok that made the others chuckle. Leo did not need a translation to understand mockery. The soldier reached down toward Leo with one massive clawed hand. His mistake was treating Scraps like he was not there. His second mistake was thinking a small animal from Earth would behave like the domesticated creatures from other worlds. Scraps launched himself at the soldier's exposed neck joint, where armor plates met. The honey badger's jaws locked onto scaled flesh with enough force to crush bone. The soldier's laugh turned into a scream that echoed off the cave walls. And just like that, everything went wrong. Blood changed everything. The Harvok soldier stumbled backward with Scraps still attached to his neck, clawing at the honey badger with both hands. Those claws could tear metal. They barely made Scraps flinch. The loose skin that made honey badgers look pudgy was actually armor. When the soldier grabbed fur and skin, Scraps just twisted inside it and bit deeper. Blue-green blood sprayed across the rocks. Leo had never seen alien blood before. It looked wrong, like old copper pipes. The smell was worse, sharp and bitter like burnt metal. The wounded soldier crashed into his squad mates, sending them stumbling. Their formation broke apart as they tried to help their comrade without getting bitten themselves. Gren shouted orders from outside the ravine. His voice carried authority and anger in equal measure. The soldiers tried to regroup, raising their weapons toward Scraps. Energy bolts lit up the cave, bright purple flashes that left scorch marks on stone. Scraps released the first soldier and dropped to the ground, already moving before the bolts reached him. The shots hit rock, hit armor, hit everything except the honey badger, who moved like smoke. Another soldier took aim, tracking Scraps with his weapon. The honey badger changed direction mid-leap, something that should have been impossible. He hit the soldier's wrist joint where the armor was flexible. Bone snapped with sounds like breaking wood. The weapon clattered to the ground and the soldier followed it, cradling his ruined arm. Leo had stopped breathing. His lungs burned, but he could not remember how to make them work. This was not like the park incident back home. That had been over in seconds. This was a battle, and Scraps was fighting like he was born for it. Maybe he was. Earth had shaped honey badgers over millions of years to fight predators 10 times their size. These soldiers were bigger than any predator from Earth, but that did not matter to an animal who once fought lions. The third soldier tried something different. He pulled a blade from his belt, 3 feet of curved metal that glowed with energy. He slashed at Scraps, fast strikes that would have cut a normal animal in half. Scraps went low under the blade and latched onto the soldier's ankle. The armor joint there was thinner for mobility. That was a mistake. The soldier went down hard and Scraps climbed him like a mountain, heading for softer targets higher up. Gren's voice changed pitch, going from angry to alarmed. He barked new orders. The remaining 5 soldiers stopped advancing and started backing up. Leo saw the shift in their body language. They had come here expecting an easy capture. Now they were fighting for their lives against something they did not understand. Scraps released the third soldier and stood in the cave entrance, outlined by the twin suns behind him. His gray and black fur was matted with blue-green blood. His sides heaved with effort. One of his ears was torn, probably from a glancing energy bolt. He should have been scared or hurt or ready to run. Instead, he advanced on the retreating soldiers, making that high-pitched shrieking sound again. The fourth soldier panicked and fired wildly. Bolts went everywhere, hitting the cave ceiling and sending rock fragments raining down. One bolt clipped Scraps across the shoulder, burning through fur and skin. The honey badger barely slowed. He charged the shooter and went for the eyes because honey badgers always went for the eyes when they wanted to end a fight quickly. The soldier screamed and clawed at his helmet. Scraps had found a gap in the visor seal. Blood and worse things leaked out. The soldier dropped his weapon and ran, crashing into his squad mates as he fled blindly down the ravine. The 5th and 6th soldiers looked at each other, then at Scraps, then turned and ran too. Not a tactical retreat, just running. That left 2 soldiers and Grend. The squad leader finally entered the ravine himself, weapon raised, his body language radiating fury and disbelief. He looked at his dead and wounded troops scattered across the rocks. He looked at the small animal standing in the cave entrance. Leo could not read Harvok expressions well, but he understood confusion when he saw it. Grend spoke into his communicator, rapid-fire words Leo could not translate. He was calling for backup. More soldiers would come, many more. Leo's brief hope that maybe Scraps had won died in his chest. You could not fight an army no matter how brave or fierce you were. Scraps did not seem to know that. He took another step toward Grend and the 2 remaining soldiers. The honey badger was breathing hard now, and Leo could see blood on his back leg. Not blue-green Harvok blood. Red human-style blood because Earth and its creatures all bled the same color. Scraps was hurt, maybe badly, but he would keep fighting until he could not move anymore. That was what honey badgers did. One of the remaining soldiers raised his weapon. Grend slapped it down and snarled something harsh. The translation came through Leo's pack. "Alive, you fool. The beast is one thing, but we need the child unharmed." So they still wanted to capture him. That was almost worse than wanting to kill him. Leo had heard stories about what the Harvok did to prisoners, especially prisoners they could use as leverage. His mother had worked so hard to build peaceful relationships with them. This incident would destroy all of that. Wars had started over less. Scraps backed up slowly, returning to Leo's position. The honey badger kept his eyes on the soldiers, never turning away, never showing vulnerability. When he reached Leo's feet, he sat down and began licking his wounds. The casual grooming while facing armed enemies seemed insane. Then Leo understood. Scraps was resting, preparing for the next attack, because there would definitely be a next attack. Grend pulled back to the ravine entrance and spoke into his communicator for a long time. Leo caught words like demon beast and impossible, and more units needed. The squad leader kept staring at Scraps with something that might have been fear or respect or both. Hard to tell with Harvok. 20 minutes passed. Leo used his emergency medical kit to clean Scraps' wounds as best he could. The honey badger tolerated the treatment with typical patience, which meant he tried to bite Leo twice before accepting that the medicine stung but helped. The gash on his back leg was deep but not critical. The shoulder burn looked worse than it was. Honey badgers had thick skin and heavy muscle that protected vital areas. Evolution had designed them to take damage and keep fighting. Leo heard engines in the distance. Big ones, transport vehicles maybe, carrying reinforcements. His hand shook as he put away the medical supplies. Scraps had fought off 8 soldiers. How many would come next? 20, 50? Eventually numbers would win. They always did. Scraps finished grooming and stood up. He looked at Leo with those dark, intelligent eyes, and Leo knew what the look meant. It meant, I will protect you no matter what. It meant, I will fight them all if I have to. It meant, you are my human and nothing will hurt you while I still breathe. Leo wrapped his arms around Scraps and held on tight. Ignoring the blood and the smell and the fact that this might be the last quiet moment they had. The honey badger tolerated the hug for 5 full seconds this time, before pulling away and returning to his guard position. The sound of engines got louder, much louder, multiple vehicles converging on their position. Grend's backup was here, and this time they would not underestimate what they faced. This time they would come prepared for war. Leo pulled his emergency pack closer and checked the contents one more time. 2 ration bars, half a bottle of filtered water, a basic first aid kit mostly used up now, a translation device, a signal beacon that had not worked for 3 days, probably jammed by Harvok military tech. Nothing useful for fighting off an army. The engines stopped. Doors opened with metallic clangs. Heavy footsteps approached, many of them marching in unison. Professional soldiers who knew their job. Grend's voice called out orders, and this time Leo understood every word through the translator. Circle formation. Heavy weapons. Shields up. Non-lethal force only. We take the human alive. Scraps lowered his head and began to growl. 20 soldiers marched into the ravine wearing armor twice as thick as the first squad. Their weapons were bigger too, mounted on their arms like cannons. They carried shields that hummed with energy fields overlapping to create a moving wall. These were not regular troops. These were specialists trained to handle dangerous situations. Squad Commander Draxus led them, his armor decorated with battle marks that told stories of dozens of campaigns. He surveyed the carnage from the first engagement with cold professional interest. His troops spread out in practiced formation, creating interlocking fields of fire that covered every angle. They moved like a machine, each part supporting the others. Leo recognized the trap immediately. They were not trying to capture him yet. They were setting up a kill box, a zone where nothing could survive if they decided lethal force was necessary. The message was clear: surrender or face overwhelming firepower. Scraps would die, and probably Leo too if he resisted. Draxus spoke through external speakers, his voice amplified and cold. Human child. Your animal has killed 4 of our soldiers and injured 5 more. Under Harvok military law, this justifies immediate lethal response. However, my orders are to retrieve you unharmed. Send out the animal alone and you will not be hurt. The lie was almost insulting. Leo had heard his mother negotiate with Harvok officials enough times to know they respected strength, but had flexible definitions of promises made to weaker species. If Leo surrendered Scraps, they would both end up prisoners or dead. At least together they had a chance, no matter how small. No, Leo shouted back, surprised at how steady his voice sounded. Leave us alone. We did not come here to fight. You started this. Draxus tilted his head, a very human gesture that looked odd on a Harvok. You are a child alone on a hostile world. We are offering rescue. Your mother, Ambassador Frost, has been looking for you. Do you not wish to see her again? That hurt worse than any threat. Leo did want to see his mother. He wanted it so badly his chest ached. But he knew tactics when he heard them. They were using his emotions as a weapon. His mother had taught him about that too, during long diplomatic flights when she explained how negotiations really worked. If you wanted to help, you would have called for her instead of sending soldiers, Leo said. You want to use me? I am not stupid. Something like approval flickered in Draxus's body language. No, you are not stupid. That makes this more difficult. He gestured and his troops began advancing, shields raised, weapons charged. Final warning, human child. Surrender now. Scraps made a sound Leo had never heard before, lower than a growl, deeper than a rumble. It resonated in Leo's chest like a bass drum. Every Harvok soldier hesitated at that sound. Even Draxus paused. Whatever instincts their species possessed, whatever prey responses evolution had coded into their genes, something recognized that sound as dangerous. The advance continued anyway. Professional soldiers knew how to ignore fear. They reached the cave entrance and Scraps launched himself at the shield wall with suicidal courage. Energy fields crackled where he hit them, throwing him back. He landed hard, scrambled to his feet, and attacked again, and again. Each impact left him more dazed but no less determined. Leo felt tears burning his eyes. Scraps could not win this. The shields were too strong, the soldiers too many, the weapons too powerful. Watching his best friend throw himself at impossible odds was breaking something inside Leo's chest. He had to do something. Anything, even if it was stupid. Then he noticed the cave walls. 3 days of hiding here, he had explored every corner during long, boring hours. The crystal formations went deep, connecting to other chambers through narrow passages. Too narrow for adult Harvok in full armor. Maybe narrow enough for a small human boy and a medium-sized animal. Leo grabbed his pack and whistled the recall command he had taught Scraps during training. The honey badger ignored it, too focused on the enemies in front of him. Leo whistled again, sharper, with the hand signal attached. Scraps finally glanced back, and Leo pointed at the narrow gap in the back wall that he had discovered on day 2. Scraps understood. He broke off the attack and sprinted to Leo's position. The Harvok troops, suddenly facing no resistance, surged forward into the cave. That was exactly what Leo wanted. He squeezed into the gap, pulling Scraps behind him, just as energy bolts filled the space where they had been standing. The crystal passage was barely 2 feet wide and pitch black. Leo turned on his pack's emergency light and crawled forward as fast as he could. Behind him, he heard Draxus shouting orders. The commander had realized too late that the cave had a back exit. Soldiers would be running around to cut them off. The passage opened into a larger chamber filled with crystal formations that glowed faintly in the dark. Leo ran across it toward another opening on the far side. Scraps kept pace beside him, limping slightly but keeping up. They emerged into a different ravine, one that opened onto the wider rocky plain, and found 5 Harvok soldiers already waiting. Draxus had anticipated the escape route and positioned troops to intercept. Leo skidded to a halt, trapped between the soldiers ahead and the squad behind. They had walked right into another trap. The closest soldier reached for Leo. Scraps hit him low and hard, claws and teeth finding gaps in armor joints. But this time the soldier was ready. He had seen what happened to the first squad. His partner moved in with a shock stick, a weapon designed to stun without killing. Scraps took the hit and went down, muscles spasming. No! Leo threw himself at the soldier with the shock stick, knowing it was useless, knowing he was just a small human child against an armored giant. His fists bounced off armor plating without effect. The soldier pushed him away casually, almost gently, focusing on subduing Scraps. Then something exploded nearby. Not an energy weapon, something bigger. The Harvok soldier stumbled, and Leo saw smoke rising from the ravine entrance behind them. Another explosion, closer this time. The soldiers started shouting into their communicators, confused and alarmed. A new voice cut through the chaos, transmitted on an open frequency so everyone could hear. This is Owen Blake, Security Chief for Ambassador Rita Frost. The human child is under diplomatic protection. Cease your actions immediately or face consequences. Leo's heart jumped. Owen was his mother's head bodyguard, a former Earth military officer who looked like he was built from spare tank parts. If Owen was here, his mother was nearby. They had found him. 3 days of hiding and running, and his mother had finally found him. The Harvok troops pulled back into defensive positions. Draxus's voice came through on the same frequency, calm and measured. Security Chief Blake, you are in Harvok-controlled territory. The child entered our space illegally. We are within our rights to detain him. The child is 8 years old and survived a transport malfunction. He is not an invader. Release him immediately. Come and take him, human. If you dare. More explosions, closer now. Energy weapons fire answered them. A full firefight was developing on the far side of the ravine. Leo could hear Owen's voice shouting orders to someone, coordinating an assault, but the Harvok troops around Leo and Scraps were not leaving. They formed a tight perimeter, using them as hostages to prevent the human security team from attacking directly. Scraps stirred, shaking off the shock stick's effects faster than should have been possible. Honey badgers had remarkable recovery abilities, another gift from evolution. He tried to stand and managed it on the 3rd attempt, swaying but upright, still ready to fight despite everything. One of the Harvok soldiers said something that Leo's translator caught. What is that creature? Why will it not stay down? His partner responded with what might have been fear or respect. It fights like Harvok, like honor-bound warrior, but it is so small. Draxus approached, weapon lowered but ready. He studied Scraps with an expression Leo could not read. Your animal has earned respect, human child. I have fought many battles across many worlds. I have never seen such ferocity in such a small form. What species is this? Honey badger, Leo said quietly. From Earth, Earth. Draxus repeated the word slowly. Your home world. I have read the reports. They say it is a Class 9 death world. Harsh gravity, dangerous fauna, extreme environments. They say humans are weak but come from strong places. I am beginning to understand what that means. Before Leo could respond, the ground shook. Not an explosion this time. Something else. Something that made the Harvok soldiers stop talking and look at the ground beneath their feet with sudden alarm. The shaking got stronger. Crystal formations around them began to crack and fall. Draxus's eyes widened. He barked orders in Harvok and his troops began backing away from the ravine walls. The commander grabbed his communicator and shouted, All units pull back. We have disturbed a nest. Repeat, we have disturbed a worm nest. The ground erupted. A massive creature burst through the rocky surface, all teeth and armored plating. 40 feet of apex predator that made the Harvok look like toys. Its roar shook the air so hard that Leo felt it in his bones. A Draven worm, the planet's native super predator, they hunted by feeling vibrations in the ground, and 3 days of fighting had rung the dinner bell. The Harvok soldiers opened fire immediately. Energy bolts splashed across the worm's armored hide and did basically nothing. The creature struck with horrifying speed. grabbing a soldier in jaws designed to crush ore deposits and biting down. Armor crumpled like paper. Draxus was shouting into his communicator, "Forget the human. Everyone pull back to the transports. Move, move!" The ground shook again. Another worm surfaced. Then a third. Leo grabbed scraps and ran. Chaos had a sound, Leo discovered. It sounded like screaming soldiers and roaring monsters and rock shattering under massive weight. It smelled like blood and burnt ozone and the sulfur stink of disturbed earth. It felt like running with lungs that burned and legs that wanted to collapse in pure terror, pushing him forward. Anyway, the first Y-arm turned away from the Harvok soldiers and focused on Leo. Maybe because he was smaller and looked like easier prey. Maybe because he was running, and that triggered hunting instincts. Either way, the creature's massive head swung toward him and those jaws opened wide enough to swallow him whole. Scraps planted himself between Leo and the worm. The size difference was absurd. The honey badger looked like a toy facing a nightmare. That did not stop him from charging at the monster with the same fearless aggression he had shown the Harvok soldiers. He launched himself at the worm's face, aiming for its eyes. The worm thrashed, trying to dislodge the small creature tearing into its sensitive tissues. Scraps held on with all four claws in his teeth, ripping and tearing. Blue blood mixed with the blue-green Harvok blood already matting his fur. The worm's tail whipped around, smashing through crystal formations. One piece caught Scraps and sent him flying. Leo watched his best friend hit the ground and not move. Something inside him broke completely. He screamed and threw a rock at the worm, knowing it was useless, not caring. The creature's attention shifted back to him. It advanced slowly now, taking its time with prey that could not escape. Energy bolts streaked past Leo's head. The Harvok troops had not fled after all. They were firing at the worm, trying to drive it away from Leo. Not because they cared about him, probably. More likely because their orders were to capture him alive, and they followed orders even when faced with monsters. Or maybe because fighting a common enemy created strange alliances. Leo did not care about their reasons. He was just grateful. Draxus's voice cut through the chaos. "Human child. Run toward my position, now." Leo hesitated, looking at Scraps lying motionless on the ground. The choice was impossible. Run and live but abandon his friend, or stay and die together. His mother would tell him to run. Scraps would want him to run. Every logical part of his brain screamed at him to run. He ran to Scraps instead. Leo grabbed the honey badger and tried to lift him. Scraps was small for an earth predator, but still heavy. Maybe 25 pounds of solid muscle and bad attitude. Leo got him halfway up when the worm's head struck like a snake. Jaws closed around empty air where Leo had been standing a second earlier. He fell backward, still holding Scraps, and rolled behind a crystal formation. The worm's head smashed through the crystal, destroying Leo's cover. Draxus and 3 of his soldiers charged the creature from the side, firing at its legs, trying to draw its attention. It worked. The worm spun toward them, roaring loud enough to hurt Leo's ears. One soldier was too slow. The tail caught him and sent him flying into the ravine wall hard enough to leave a crater. Leo used the distraction to drag Scraps toward a cluster of rocks. The honey badger's eyes were closed and blood trickled from his mouth. His chest still rose and fell, but barely. Leo pressed his hands against Scraps's ribs, feeling for broken bones, trying to remember the first aid training his mother had made him take. Everything felt wrong. Too many injuries. Too much damage. "Please wake up," Leo whispered. "Please, Scraps. I need you. Please do not leave me alone here." The honey badger did not respond. Leo felt hot tears running down his face, mixing with the dust and blood already there. This was his fault, all of it. If he had stayed with the transport. If he had been less scared during the evacuation. If he had been braver or smarter or just better, none of this would have happened. Something grabbed Leo from behind. He shouted and tried to fight, but the grip was too strong. A voice spoke directly into his ear. "Kid, stop fighting. I am with your mother." Leo twisted around and saw a human face. Scarred, weathered, middle-aged. Owen Blake looked exactly like his security file photo, which Leo had seen dozens of times during diplomatic missions. The man held a rifle that looked like it belonged in a museum but probably hit harder than any Harvok weapon. "Scraps," Leo said desperately. "He is hurt. We have to help him." Owen looked at the unconscious honey badger and something flickered across his face. Respect, maybe. That little guy held off 8 Harvok soldiers? More than 8. "Please, we have to save him." Owen made a decision. He scooped up Scraps with one arm. grabbed Leo with the other and ran toward a defensive position where two more human security officers were laying down covering fire. The Harvok troops and the worms were fully engaged now, creating a three-way battle that gave Owen the opening he needed. They dove behind an overturned Harvok transport. Owen set Scraps down carefully and pulled out a medical kit that looked far more advanced than Leo's emergency supplies. His hands moved with practiced efficiency, checking vitals, applying trauma foam to the worst wounds, injecting something that made Scraps' breathing steadier. "Your timing is terrible, kid," Owen said while he worked. "Another 5 minutes and we would have had you out clean. Now we are stuck in the middle of a war zone with angry lizards and angrier worms." "Worms," Leo corrected automatically. "They are called Draven worms, and I am sorry. I did not mean for any of this to happen." Owen glanced at him with something that might have been a smile. "Yeah, well, life rarely goes according to plan. Your mother is going to hug you and then ground you until you are 30. Is she okay?" "Where is she?" "She is coordinating our extraction about 2 miles from here. Could not come herself because ambassadors charging into combat zones causes diplomatic incidents." Owen finished treating Scraps and checked his rifle's charge. "This little warrior going to make it?" Leo looked at Scraps, now breathing steadily, trauma foam covering a dozen wounds. "He always makes it. He is a honey badger." "A what?" Before Leo could explain, one of the worms broke free from the Harvok soldiers and charged their position. Owen shoved Leo down and opened fire. The rifle made a sound like thunder and kicked out projectiles that actually penetrated the worm's armor. Not deeply, but enough to hurt it. Enough to make it reconsider. The other 2 security officers added their fire. Between the 3 humans and the remaining Harvok troops, they managed to drive the worm back toward its nest opening. It retreated underground, wounded and angry, but still alive. The other 2 worms followed, apparently deciding this prey fought back too hard to be worth the effort. Sudden silence. Everyone stopped firing. Humans and Harvok stared at each other across 50 yards of torn-up ground. Both sides exhausted, both sides bleeding, neither side sure if the fight was over or just pausing. Draxus stepped forward slowly, weapon lowered. "Security Chief Blake, it appears we face a common threat." Owen stood up, rifle ready but not aimed. "Appears that way, Commander Draxus. Funny how giant murder worms make everyone friends." "Indeed." Draxus looked at his remaining troops. Out of 20, only 11 were still standing. His armor was cracked and leaking fluid from a dozen places. "Perhaps we should discuss terms of disengagement. Neither of us can afford further losses." "I agree. Here are my terms. We take the kid and his animal, you take your wounded, everyone goes home and pretends this never happened." Draxus's laugh sounded like grinding rocks. "You expect me to return empty-handed after losing 9 soldiers? I expect you to be smart enough to know when to cut your losses. Those worms might come back. You really want to be here when they do?" The Harvok commander considered this. Leo could see him calculating, weighing pride against pragmatism. Finally, Draxus nodded. "Agreed, but I will file a report. Your ambassador will hear about this incident." "Fair enough. She will probably want to yell at someone anyway." They stood there for another moment, 2 professionals who understood each other despite being from different species. Then Draxus turned and began barking orders to his troops. They gathered their dead and wounded and started moving toward their transports. Owen knelt beside Leo. "Can you walk?" "Yes." "Good. Grab your pet and let us get out of here before something else tries to kill us." Leo carefully picked up Scraps, holding him close. The honey badger's eyes flickered open, unfocused but aware. He made a soft sound, almost a purr, and Leo felt his heart restart. "I thought I lost you," Leo whispered. Scraps responded by trying to bite his nose, which was the most honey badger way possible to say, "I am fine. Stop worrying." They moved out, Owen and his team forming a protective square around Leo. Behind them, the Harvok troops loaded into their transports and lifted off. No one fired a parting shot. The temporary truce held, at least for now. As they walked across the torn landscape, Owen asked, "So what exactly is a honey badger?" Leo looked down at Scraps, who was already trying to wiggle free and walk on his own, despite being held together mostly by trauma foam and stubbornness. "The toughest animal on Earth," Leo said simply. "And my best friend." The temporary camp smelled like military rations and medical supplies. Owen's team had set up in a cluster of rocks 2 miles from the worm nest, far enough to be safe but close enough to respond if the Harvok tried anything. Leo sat on a folded blanket while a medic checked him over. asking questions about injuries and giving him nutrient bars that tasted like cardboard, but filled his empty stomach. Scraps lay on a thermal pad designed for human use, but working just fine for a honey badger. The combat medic, a woman named Patricia who said she had treated everything from knife wounds to radiation poisoning, kept glancing at Scraps with professional curiosity mixed with disbelief. "The trauma foam is designed for humans," she said while scanning Scraps with a medical device. "It should not work this well on non-human biology. But his wounds are already starting to close. I have seen soldiers take longer to heal from less severe injuries." "He is tough," Leo said, finishing his third nutrient bar. Hunger had caught up with him all at once, along with thirst and exhaustion, and the shakes that came after terror faded. "Honey badgers heal fast, and they do not feel pain the same way other animals do." Patricia shook her head. "Kid, I have been a combat medic for 15 years. I have patched up soldiers from 6 different species. This little guy has broken ribs, plasma burns, internal bruising, and about 20 lacerations that should have him unconscious from shock. Instead, he tried to bite me when I started treatment." "What kind of evolution produces that?" "The Earth kind," Owen said, walking over with a communicator in his hand. "Kid, your mother wants to talk to you. Fair warning, she is going to cry and yell, probably in that order." Leo took the communicator with shaking hands. Before he could speak, his mother's voice came through. "Leo? Leo, baby, is that you?" "Hi, Mom." His voice cracked halfway through. "I am sorry. I am so sorry. I did not mean to get lost. I did not mean for any of this to happen." "Oh, sweetheart." Rita Frost's voice was thick with tears. "I thought I lost you." 3 days, Leo. 3 days of not knowing if you were alive or hurt or scared. I have been searching every minute." "Where were you?" "In a cave system about 5 miles from the landing site. I had Scraps with me, and my emergency pack. I remembered what you taught me about survival." The words tumbled out faster and faster. "But then the Harvok found me and they wanted to capture me and Scraps fought them and there were so many soldiers and then the worms came and it was so scary, Mom." "I know, baby." "I know, but you are safe now. Owen is bringing you to me. Just a few more hours and I will have you back." Leo wanted to ask about the diplomatic fallout, about what would happen with the Harvok, about whether he had started a war by accident. But he was 8 and exhausted, and his mother's voice made all those questions seem less important. "Is Dad okay? Did you tell him what happened?" "Your father is on his way from Earth. He will be here in 2 days." Rita paused.
"Leo, Owen told me about Scraps."
"About what he did. Is he all right?" Leo looked at the honey badger, who had opened his eyes and was watching the conversation with typical alertness despite his injuries. "He is hurt but getting better. Mom, he saved my life. Multiple times. He fought so many soldiers. He did not run even when he should have. He is the bravest thing I have ever seen." "Honey badgers usually are." His mother's voice carried a smile now. "When we approved him as your companion animal, the Earth Wildlife Service warned us they were fearless to the point of stupidity. I think they undersold it." Owen made a gesture that meant wrap it up. "Communications this close to Harvok territory were risky. The Harvok might be honoring the truce, but they were definitely monitoring transmissions." Leo said goodbye to his mother and handed back the communicator. "She doing okay?" Owen asked. She was crying. "Yeah, parents do that when their kids nearly die." Owen squatted down to Leo's level. "Listen, kid. What you did out there, surviving 3 days alone on a hostile world at your age, that took guts. But what your animal did." He looked at Scraps with something close to reverence. "I have served with Special Forces soldiers who would not charge 8 armed hostiles to protect their squad. That thing did it for you without hesitation. You have got yourself a real warrior there." "He is not a warrior. He is just Scraps. He is my friend. Where I come from, those are not different things." Owen stood up. "We move out in 10 minutes. Stay close to Patricia and do exactly what she says. We have got about 3 hours of hiking through rough terrain, and the Harvok might change their minds about the truce." The next 3 hours were the longest of Leo's life. Every sound made him jump. Every shadow looked like a Harvok soldier. Patricia let him carry Scraps in a specially made sling that kept the honey badger stable while allowing Leo to move. Scraps tolerated this with minimal struggling, which showed how hurt he really was. A healthy honey badger would have fought the restraint. They moved through crystal canyons and across rocky plains, always watching for threats. Twice they spotted Harvok patrols in the distance. Both times the patrols made no move to intercept. Apparently Draxus had meant the truce seriously. Leo was grateful but also confused. Why would the Harvok commander honor an agreement when he could have just attacked them? Owen explained during a rest break. Warriors respect warriors. Your little buddy there earned something rare from the Harvok. Respect. Draxus lost soldiers, but he also saw something he never expected. A creature smaller than his forearm taking down trained troops. That changes how you see things, but they hate humans. Everyone says the Harvok think we are weak. They thought you were weak. Past tense. Now they know humans come from a world that produces animals like that. Owen pointed at Scraps. And if your pets are that dangerous, what does that say about you? Leo had not thought about it that way. He looked at Scraps, remembering every moment of the past 3 days. The honey badger hunting local wildlife to feed them both, standing guard while Leo slept, fighting impossible odds without fear or hesitation, never giving up, never backing down, never running away even when running made sense. That was what Earth evolution produced. Animals so tough they would fight until they physically could not continue. And humans had not just survived alongside those animals, they had made friends with them. Patricia called a halt near a cluster of rocks that offered good visibility. She checked her scanner and frowned. We have got movement ahead. Multiple contacts. Could be Harvok. Owen readied his rifle and signaled his team to spread out. They waited in tense silence for 5 minutes. Then a familiar voice called out, Owen Blake, if you shoot me, my son will be very upset. Ambassador Frost? Owen lowered his weapon. You were supposed to wait at the extraction point. Rita Frost emerged from behind the rocks with 2 more security officers. She looked like she had been crying and had not slept in days. The moment she saw Leo, she ran to him and pulled him into a hug so tight he could barely breathe. Never do that again, she whispered fiercely. Never ever do that again. Do you understand me? Yes, Mom. Leo hugged her back just as tightly. I promise. Rita held him for a long moment before pulling back to look him over. Her diplomat composure cracked when she saw the bruises and cuts and dirt covering her son. Then she noticed Scraps in the sling and her expression shifted to something Leo had rarely seen. Pure fury at whatever had hurt her child and his companion. Owen, report. What happened out there? Owen gave a concise tactical summary, leaving out nothing. The Harvok ambush, the firefights, the worm attack, the temporary truce. Rita listened with the same focused intensity she used during diplomatic negotiations, asking questions, absorbing information, planning her next moves. When Owen finished, she turned to Leo. Baby, I need you to tell me everything from your perspective. Start from when you left the transport. Leo told his story. His mother listened without interrupting, though her grip on his hand tightened during the scary parts. When he described Scraps fighting the first Harvok squad, Rita looked at the honey badger with new understanding. He really took on 8 soldiers alone, she asked. He did not want to, but they were going to hurt me. So he fought them. Rita reached out slowly and gently scratched Scraps behind his ears. The honey badger tolerated this for approximately 2 seconds before trying to bite her, which made Leo laugh despite everything. Even hurt and exhausted, Scraps was still himself. I owe this animal my son's life, Rita said quietly. Whatever medical treatment he needs, whatever care, whatever it costs, he gets it. Understood? Already arranged, Patricia said. I contacted a veterinary specialist who works with Earth fauna. She is meeting us at the extraction point with a full medical suite. The group moved out together, humans forming a protective circle around Leo and his mother. They walked through alien landscape under twin suns, and for the first time in 3 days, Leo felt safe. His mother was here. Owen's team surrounded them. Scraps was hurt but alive and already showing signs of recovery. As they crested a ridge, Leo saw the extraction point ahead. 3 human shuttles waited, engines warm, ready for immediate departure. Medical personnel moved around them, setting up equipment. His mother's full security detail stood watch, weapons ready. They made it. After everything, they actually made it. Scraps stirred in his sling and opened both eyes, focusing on Leo with that intelligent gaze. The honey badger made a soft sound, almost content. Leo scratched his head gently, careful of the injuries. We are going home, buddy, Leo whispered. We made it. 2 weeks after Draven 7, Leo sat in a medical observation room aboard the human diplomatic vessel Messenger. watching Scraps terrorize a veterinary assistant who was just trying to change bandages. The honey badger had recovered faster than anyone predicted, which the specialist said was both typical for his species and medically fascinating. His wounds had healed cleanly. His energy had returned. His attitude had never left. "He is being difficult on purpose," Dr. Sarah Kim said, watching through the observation window with barely concealed amusement. The veterinary specialist had treated Earth fauna for 20 years and claimed nothing surprised her anymore. Scraps had surprised her. Honey badgers are intelligent enough to know when they are being annoying. "He knows that assistant is new and nervous. Should I help?" Leo asked. "No, Terry needs to learn. You cannot work with Earth predators if a 25-pound bundle of attitude intimidates you." Dr. Kim glanced at Leo. "How are you doing? Nightmares getting better?" Leo shrugged. He had been having dreams about Harvok soldiers and worms every night since the rescue. His mother said it was normal after trauma. The ship's counselor said the same thing. Leo just wished normal did not involve waking up scared at 3 in the morning. "A little better. Scraps helps. He sleeps in my room now." "Of course he does. Honey badgers are incredibly protective of their bonded humans, especially after threatening situations. He probably will not let you out of his sight for weeks." Dr. Kim pulled up a file on her tablet. "I have been reviewing the combat footage from Draven 7. Owen's team had helmet cameras. Do you want to see it?" "No." Leo had seen enough. He remembered every moment with perfect clarity. Watching it again would not help. "Fair enough." Dr. Kim closed the file. "The Galactic Assembly has been asking about Scraps, specifically about his species and whether all honey badgers are like him. What did you tell them?" "The truth. That honey badgers are one of the toughest small predators Earth ever produced. That they have few natural predators because most predators learn quickly that attacking them is not worth the effort. That they are fearless to the point of apparent stupidity, but actually quite intelligent and calculating." Dr. Kim smiled. "I also mentioned that humans have been living alongside them for thousands of years. Some cultures consider them sacred because of their courage." Through the window, Scraps had stopped fighting and was now allowing the assistant to finish the bandage change. The honey badger had made his point and saw no reason to continue being difficult. Terry looked relieved and slightly traumatized. "Your mother asked me to prepare a full briefing on Earth fauna for the assembly," Dr. Kim continued. "They want to understand what else humans share their world with." "I think Scraps scared them." "Good," Leo said quietly. "Maybe they will stop thinking humans are weak." Dr. Kim gave him a thoughtful look. "Is that what you think happened? That Scraps proved humans are strong?" Leo considered the question carefully. "I think Scraps proved we are different. Most species in the galaxy do not live with predators. They evolved past that, or killed their predators or left their homeworlds. But humans still live with lions and bears and sharks and everything else that could kill us. We made friends with wolves and they became dogs. We made friends with dangerous animals because we wanted to, not because we had to. That is a very mature observation for an 8-year-old. My mom explains things. She says understanding why people do things is how you make peace with them." "Smart woman, your mother." Dr. Kim stood up. "Come on, let us rescue Terry from your demon badger before he quits." They entered the medical room together. Scraps immediately perked up at seeing Leo, making happy chirping sounds that seemed completely at odds with the creature who had torn through Harvok soldiers. Leo picked him up carefully, mindful of healing wounds, and Scraps settled into his arms with contentment. Terry, the assistant, looked grateful. "He is very strong for his size. That is kind of his whole species," Leo said. "Sorry he was mean to you." "It is fine. I have worked with Earth cats before. This was similar, but with more teeth and less mercy." Leo carried Scraps back to his quarters, Dr. Kim walking beside them. The ship was quiet during rest cycle, most crew either sleeping or working in essential areas. They passed a conference room where Leo's mother was in a meeting with her senior staff. Rita saw them through the window and waved, smiling despite obvious exhaustion. "Your mother has been in meetings for 6 hours straight," Dr. Kim said. "The Harvok sent an official complaint about the Draven 7 incident. Then they sent a second message that was not a complaint. What was it? An invitation. They want to meet with her formally to discuss what they call the human warrior tradition. Apparently, General Scorn filed a report that was less about your mother's son trespassing and more about Earth biology being terrifying. The Harvok High Command wants to know more." Leo felt a flutter of anxiety. "Are we in trouble?" "The opposite, actually. The Harvok respect strength. You and Scraps showed them strength they did not expect. Now they want to understand it. Dr. Kim paused at Leo's door. You might have accidentally started a friendship instead of a war. That night, Leo lay in his bed with Scraps curled up beside him, both of them comfortable for the first time in weeks. The honey badger snored softly, already deep asleep. Leo stared at the ceiling and thought about everything that had happened. He had been lost and scared. Scraps had protected him. Soldiers had tried to capture them. They fought back. The worms attacked. Everyone survived. And now the Harvok wanted to talk about honor and warriors and earth animals. It seemed impossible. But so did a 25-pound honey badger fighting off trained soldiers, and that had definitely happened. Leo's door chimed. His mother entered quietly, checking to see if he was awake. When she saw his open eyes, she sat on the edge of his bed. "Cannot sleep?" she asked. "Thinking too much." Rita smiled and brushed hair off his forehead. "I do that too, especially lately. Dr. Kim said the Harvok want to meet with you." "They do." General Scorn himself requested the meeting. "He wants to understand what he faced on Draven 7. Rita looked at Scraps, still sleeping peacefully. He called Scraps a warrior of honor in his report. That is one of the highest compliments in Harvok culture. Scraps is not a warrior. He is just a honey badger doing honey badger things. Maybe that is the same thing. Maybe being willing to fight impossible odds to protect what you love is what warriors really are. Rita squeezed Leo's hand. "You were very brave out there, baby. I know you were scared, but you kept thinking, kept surviving, kept taking care of your friend. That took real courage. I did not feel brave. I felt terrified. Bravery is not about not being scared. It is about doing what needs to be done even when you are scared. You did that, and Scraps did that for you." Rita stood up. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow we reach the assembly station. There are going to be a lot of people who want to meet the boy and the honey badger who changed how the galaxy sees humanity." She kissed his forehead and left, dimming the lights on her way out. Leo lay in the darkness, listening to Scraps snore, and thought about the future. The galaxy had thought humans were weak, soft, good for talking, but not much else. One small animal from Earth had challenged that assumption. Not through technology or weapons or even human action, just by being what evolution had made him, fearless, loyal, and absolutely unwilling to back down. What would happen when the galaxy learned about all the other Earth animals? When they discovered that honey badgers were not even close to the most dangerous things humans lived with? When they realized humans had domesticated wolves and kept great cats as companions and swam with sharks for fun? Leo fell asleep with that thought, a small smile on his face. 3 months later, Leo and his mother attended a formal ceremony at the Galactic Assembly Hall. Representatives from 40 species filled the chamber, including a Harvok delegation led by General Scorn himself. The general had recovered from his injuries on Draven 7, and now wore his battle scars with pride. The ceremony was about many things: new trade agreements, cultural exchange programs, formal recognition of humanity's diplomatic status. But everyone really wanted to see one thing. Scraps sat on a cushion beside Leo's chair, wearing a small harness with medals attached. One was from the Earth Wildlife Service, recognizing exceptional service by a companion animal. The other was Harvok, a warrior's mark that had never been given to a non-Harvok before. The honey badger tolerated the attention with typical indifference. He cleaned his paws and occasionally looked around the chamber with mild interest. When cameras focused on him, he yawned. When ambassadors pointed, he ignored them. He was in all ways completely unimpressed by galactic politics. General Scorn approached during a break in formal proceedings. He had requested permission to speak with Leo directly, which was unusual but allowed. The general knelt to bring himself closer to Leo's height, a gesture of respect. "Young Leo Frost," Scorn said in careful English, "I have thought much about our encounter on Draven 7. I have fought for many years. I have won many battles, but I have never been defeated by one so small until I met your companion. Scraps was not trying to defeat you," Leo said politely. "He was trying to protect me. Yes, that is what makes it remarkable." Scorn looked at Scraps with something close to reverence. "In Harvok culture, we value strength and honor above all things. We thought we understood what those words meant. Your animal taught us we did not. Strength is not only size. Honor is not only winning. Sometimes strength is fighting when you cannot win. Honor is protecting what you love even when it costs everything. The general stood and addressed the full assembly, his voice carrying to every corner. I came here to file complaints against humanity for the death of my soldiers. Instead, I filed reports of respect. This small creature from Earth showed more honor than warriors 3 times his size. If this is what humanity shares their world with, if this is the kind of courage their animals possess, then we have badly misunderstood them. He turned back to Leo. You have my respect, young human. And your warrior companion has my gratitude for teaching me humility. Scorn bowed, a formal Harvok gesture rarely given to other species, and returned to his delegation. Rita leaned over to Leo and whispered, I think you just changed the course of human-Harvok relations. Scraps did it, Leo whispered back. I just held on. Sometimes that is enough. The ceremony continued. Speeches were made. Treaties were signed. New eras of cooperation were declared. Through it all, Scraps dozed peacefully, completely unbothered by his role in galactic history. That evening, back in their quarters, Leo sat with Scraps and thought about everything. The assembly wanted his mother to arrange tours of Earth, showing representatives what other animals humans lived with. There was talk of cultural exchange programs focused on humanity's relationship with dangerous wildlife. Some species were fascinated. Others were terrified. Most were both. Dr. Kim had started a lecture series about Earth fauna. Her first talk, Honey Badgers and Other Reasons to Respect Earth, had been attended by over 300 species representatives. The recording had been downloaded millions of times across the galaxy. Everyone wanted to understand how humans could be so peaceful when they came from such a dangerous world. The answer was simple but hard to explain. Humans had learned to see beauty in danger, friendship in ferocity, and family in creatures that could easily kill them. Rita entered the room carrying a data pad. You have mail. From Owen. Leo took the pad and read the message. Owen had returned to Earth and was sending updates about the zoo partnership program. Apparently, several alien species wanted to visit Earth zoos to see the animals in person. Owen thought this was hilarious and possibly dangerous depending on whether anyone tried to pet the lions. There is more news, Rita said, sitting beside him. The Galactic Assembly is creating a new classification for Earth. They are calling it a Category 10 Death World, with domesticated apex predators. It is the first time they have used that designation. What does that mean? It means they finally understand that humanity is not weak, despite coming from a dangerous world. We are strong because of it. Because we survived by making allies out of monsters, and those allies made us better. Scraps chose that moment to wake up, stretch, and try to steal Leo's dinner from the table. Leo grabbed him gently and moved the plate out of reach, which Scraps accepted with philosophical calm. The honey badger settled into Leo's lap and went back to sleep. He really is something special, Rita said softly. He is just Scraps. He has always been this way. Leo scratched behind the honey badger's ears. Maybe that is what makes Earth animals special. They do not try to be brave or strong. They just are, and somehow we figured out how to be friends with them. Rita kissed the top of his head. Get some sleep, baby. Tomorrow we start planning the Earth tour. The galaxy wants to meet our bears and sharks and eagles and everything else we call neighbors. Can Scraps come? Scraps goes wherever you go. That appears to be non-negotiable. Leo smiled and held his best friend close. The galaxy had learned an important lesson on Draven 7. Earth was dangerous. Earth animals were terrifying, and humans had somehow turned all that danger into friendship, all that terror into loyalty, all that strength into love. The galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. One small honey badger had made sure of that. The emergency lights painted everything red on Trading Station Harmony 7. Quilvin pressed all 4 of his hands against the control panel, trying to stop them from shaking. Through the security feeds, he watched another empty corridor. Somewhere in those dark passages, the creature was waiting. His communication device blinked. Another station was calling, probably to ask if they should send help. Quilvin knew what they really wanted to know. They wanted to know if Harmony 7 was lost, if they should write it off and leave everyone here to die. 3 weeks ago, a cargo ship had docked. Standard procedure. The crew unloaded containers of goods from the outer systems. Nobody checked container 73 carefully enough. By the time anyone noticed the breach, it was too late. The rift claw was loose. Quilvin had seen pictures of rift claws before. Every species in the galaxy knew about them. They came from Draken 4, a world so hostile that even the plants could kill you. Rift claws were apex predators there. 4 meters long, covered in armored scales. Claws that could tear through steel, and worst of all, they were smart. Smart enough to hunt in patterns. Smart enough to learn. The first security team went in with full gear. Military-grade weapons, shields, armor. Only one came back out, screaming about how fast it moved. The second team was larger, better prepared. They found pieces of the first team. Then the Rift Claw found them. The third team refused to go in at all. They took their ship and left. Station Harmony 7 had 40,000 people on it. Traders, families, workers, all of them trapped. The Rift Claw had made its home in the maintenance levels. Every day it got bolder. Yesterday it had come up to the residential areas. A family barely escaped. Today might be worse. Quilvin had sent 73 requests for help. 73 rejections came back. Too dangerous. Too expensive. Not worth the risk. The Galactic Council suggested evacuation, as if they had enough ships for 40,000 people. As if the Rift Claw would just let them leave peacefully. Then one response came back. Different from the others. It was from Earth, the human homeworld. Quilvin had heard of humans. Everyone had. They were the newest species to reach space. Primitives from some backwater planet who barely understood quantum mechanics. Their world was classified as a Class 12 death world, the kind of planet where everything was trying to kill everything else. Most species avoided Earth. The humans who left it were considered reckless at best, insane at worst. The human message was simple: one consultant, reasonable fee, no guarantee of success. Quilvin almost deleted it. One consultant? For a Rift Claw? But what choice did he have? He accepted. That was 2 days ago. Now the human ship was docking. Quilvin made his way to the docking bay. Other station personnel came with him. Merchants, security officers, officials. All of them wanted to see what kind of fool would accept this job. The docking clamps engaged with a heavy thud. The airlock began its cycling process. Quilvin felt his hearts beating fast. Maybe the humans would surprise everyone. Maybe they would send a team of warriors, special weapons, advanced technology that could track and kill the Rift Claw. The airlock door opened. One human stepped through. He was tall by human standards, but average compared to most galactic species. He wore simple brown clothing. On his back was a large pack. In his hands he carried what looked like scanning equipment. No armor, no plasma weapons, no military gear at all. The human looked around the docking bay, then walked toward Quilvin. His face was calm, almost relaxed. "Administrator Quilvin?" the human asked. His voice was quiet. "Yes," Quilvin managed to say. "You are the consultant?" "David Warren." The human extended one hand. Quilvin knew this was a human greeting gesture. He touched his own hand to the human's palm briefly. The human's skin was warm, soft, no natural armor at all. "Where is your team?" Quilvin asked. "Just me." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Someone laughed. Not kindly. "This is a Rift Claw," Quilvin said slowly. "You understand what that means?" 3 professional security teams failed. 18 beings are dead, David nodded. "I read the reports. That's why I brought this." He tapped his scanning equipment. "And this." He touched his pack. "That's tranquilizer equipment," one of the security officers said. He was from the Kelvorian species, large and covered in thick scales. "You plan to tranquilize a Rift Claw? With doses made for Earth animals?" "Modified the formulas for Dracon 4 biochemistry," David said. "Took some research." The Kelvorian officer made a sound like grinding rocks. Laughter. "This is what Earth sends? One soft skin with sleep drugs?" Others joined in the laughter. Quilvin felt shame burning through him. This was his solution. This primitive human. David waited for the laughter to stop. His expression never changed. "Can I see the attack sites?" he asked. "You'll want to rest first," Quilvin said. "Prepare yourself." "I'm prepared," David adjusted his pack. "The longer we wait, the more dangerous the Rift Claw becomes." "She's stressed." "Unfamiliar environment. That makes predators unpredictable." "She?" Quilvin repeated. The reports mentioned the attack patterns, the nesting behavior in the maintenance levels. The aggressive territorial response. Classic maternal protection instincts. David pulled out a data pad. "I'd like to interview the survivors too." Get a better picture of her behavior. Quilvin stared at the human. He had called the Riftclaw her, not it, her, as if the creature was a person, as if she mattered beyond being a threat. You think you can reason with it? The Kelvorian officer asked. Speak to it politely? No, David said simply. But I can understand her. That's the first step. More laughter. More mockery. The human ignored it all. He was already studying his datapad, reading through the reports with complete focus. Quilvin made a decision. A foolish one, probably. But what other option existed? Follow me, he said to David. I'll show you everything we have. As they walked through the corridors, station personnel moved away from the human. Some whispered. Some pointed. All of them looked at David like he was already dead. David didn't seem to notice. He walked calmly, studying everything. The walls, the floor, the ceiling. Taking in details. The maintenance access is this way, Quilvin said. They reached a large sealed door. Warning signs covered it in 12 languages. David placed one hand on the door. Behind it, somewhere in the darkness, the Riftclaw waited. Tomorrow morning, David said. I'll need these levels cleared of all personnel. Just me going in. That's suicide, Quilvin whispered. David smiled slightly. It was a strange expression. Not afraid. Not arrogant. Something else. Something Quilvin couldn't name. I've done this before, David said. Different predators. Same principles. He turned and looked at Quilvin directly. His eyes were brown, soft eyes. Eyes that had no business belonging to someone about to face a Riftclaw alone. She's scared, David said quietly. Everything she knows is gone. She's trapped here. When animals are scared, they fight. But fear can become trust. It just takes patience, Quilvin wanted to argue. Wanted to call this madness. But something in the human's voice stopped him. This wasn't bravado. This wasn't ignorance, this was experience. I'll arrange the clearance, Quilvin heard himself say. David nodded. Thank you. Now those survivors, I'd like to hear their stories. As they walked away from the sealed door, Quilvin couldn't shake one thought. The entire galaxy called humans weak, primitive, reckless, but this human showed no fear. Only purpose. Maybe, Quilvin thought, the galaxy didn't understand humans at all. David sat in the small room with the survivor. Her name was Telson, a young trader from the Vorak species. She had purple skin and large eyes that kept darting toward the door. Her hands shook as she held a cup of water. Take your time, David said softly. He kept his distance, sitting across the room. His body language was open, non-threatening. It was so fast, Telson whispered. We heard stories, warnings, but we needed to get supplies from storage. That section was supposed to be clear. What did you notice first? David asked. He had his datapad ready but didn't look at it. He looked at Telson. A smell. Like earth after rain, but stronger. Then we heard breathing. Heavy. Like machinery but alive. Telson's cup rattled against her teeth. My partner ran, I froze. The creature came around the corner. Describe her movements. Telson's eyes went distant, low to the ground. Muscles under her scales moved like water. Her head swept side to side. She was smelling us, tasting the air. Did she attack immediately? No. Telson looked surprised by her own answer. She stopped, looked at us. Her eyes were yellow. Smart eyes. She made a sound. Not a roar. Something else, and like what? David leaned forward slightly, like a question. Telson set down her cup. Then my partner screamed and threw something at her. She moved so fast. One moment she was there. Next moment she had him. By the time I ran, he was already gone. David nodded slowly. He made notes now. The sound she made. Before your partner screamed. Can you make it? Telson tried. It came out as a low rumble mixed with a clicking sound. Thank you, David said. That helps a lot. He interviewed 6 more survivors. Each story was similar. The Riftclaw was fast, dangerous, but something else stood out. Something nobody else seemed to notice. She only attacked when threatened, when someone ran, when someone made aggressive moves. David spent hours reviewing security footage. The cameras in the maintenance levels were damaged, but some still worked. He watched the Riftclaw move through the corridors, watched her investigate rooms, watched her gather materials, building a nest. His datapad showed biological information about Riftclaws. They lived in family groups on Dracon 4. Females gave birth to 3 or 4 young at a time. They were fiercely protective. The maternal instinct was so strong that Riftclaw mothers had been known to fight off predators 3 times their size. David pulled up the cargo manifest. Container 73. Origin Draken 4. Listed contents, mineral samples. Actual contents, 1 juvenile Riftclaw tagged for the exotic pet trade. Illegal. Cruel. And it explained everything. This wasn't a monster. This was a mother whose child had been stolen. The juvenile had probably died in transport. The mother escaped, confused and grieving, into a space station full of strange creatures. Of course she attacked. She was protecting herself. Looking for her baby, found something. David looked up. Quilvin stood in the doorway. She's looking for her offspring, David said. He turned his datapad around, showing the manifest. This was a smuggling operation. Someone stole a juvenile. The mother must have been nearby when they took it. She followed. Quilvin's antenna twitched. That's speculation. It's behavior analysis. David stood and stretched. His back made small popping sounds. Every action she's taken fits the pattern. The nest building. The territorial aggression. The fact that she doesn't hunt for food. Security reports say she hasn't eaten any of her victims. She kills them. She eliminates threats. There's a difference. David walked to the window. Outside, the station continued its normal operations. People going about their lives. All of them trying to pretend there wasn't a creature in the walls that could kill them. On Earth, we have animals called grizzly bears. Massive predators. They can tear a human apart easily. But most attacks happen for one reason. What reason? The bear has cubs nearby. She thinks you're a threat. She's not hunting you. She's protecting her babies. David turned back to Quilvin. This Riftclaw is the same. She's a protective mother in a world she doesn't understand. Every creature here looks like a threat to her. Quilvin was quiet for a long moment. Even if that's true, how does it help? She still killed 18 beings. It helps because it means she doesn't want to kill. She wants to survive. She wants to protect. David grabbed his pack and checked the contents. Tranquilizer gun, sedative darts, medical supplies, food rations. Fear is easier to work with than aggression. You plan to go in tomorrow? At dawn, when she's least active. David sealed his pack. I'll need the maintenance levels completely cleared. No security. No observers. Just me and her. That's insane. Maybe. David smiled that strange smile again. But I've calmed frightened animals before. Relocated problem predators. Rehabilitated injured wildlife. This is bigger, sure, but the principles are the same. Riftclaws aren't Earth animals. Predators are predators. Mothers are mothers. Intelligence is intelligence. David met Quilvin's eyes. The galaxy thinks humans are weak because we don't have claws or armor or natural weapons. But we survived a world full of things that wanted to eat us. You know how we did that? Quilvin shook his head. We learned to understand them, to predict them, to see patterns in their behavior. We couldn't outrun the predators on Earth, we couldn't outfight them, so we outsmarted them. We learned their languages, their habits, their fears. David's voice was soft but firm. This Riftclaw is scared and alone. I speak that language, and if you're wrong, then I die. Probably quickly, David shrugged. But I'm not wrong. I've seen the footage. Read the reports. Talk to survivors. She's a mother. I know how mothers think. Quilvin's translator struggled with something in David's tone. There was pain there. Old pain. You lost someone, Quilvin said quietly. David was silent for a moment. My mother worked with wildlife. Elephants in Africa. Magnificent creatures, smart, emotional. Family groups led by matriarchs who remembered everything. Remembered grudges. Remembered kindness. He looked out the window again. A poacher killed a calf. The mother elephant was wounded trying to protect it. My mother stayed with that elephant for 3 days. No weapons. No barriers. Just patience and empathy. The elephant let my mother treat her wounds. Let her grieve with her. What happened? The elephant survived. Returned to her herd. My mother said it was the most important thing she ever did. Teaching me that lesson. David picked up his pack. Understanding isn't weakness. Empathy isn't surrender. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is see the world through another creature's eyes. Quilvin felt something shift in his perception. This human wasn't reckless. He wasn't ignorant. He was something the galaxy had forgotten how to be. Compassionate. I'll make sure the levels are cleared, Quilvin said. Thank you. David headed for the door, then paused. One more thing. I'll need food, raw meat, about 20 kilos, and water. Fresh water, for the rift claw. She hasn't eaten in days. Stress does that to grieving mothers. Makes them stop caring for themselves. David looked back at Quilvin. If I want her to trust me, I need to show her I understand what she needs. After David left, Quilvin stood alone in the room. Through the walls, he could feel the station around him. 40,000 lives depending on one human with a pack full of sedatives and empathy. The galaxy called humans weak. But standing there, Quilvin wondered if the galaxy understood what strength really meant. Dawn on a space station meant nothing. The lights dimmed on a schedule, simulating day and night, but there was no real sunrise. Still, David waited until the station reached its quietest hour. When most people slept, when the rift claw would be least alert, he stood before the sealed maintenance entrance. Behind him, Quilvin watched from a safe distance. Security feeds would show everything. The entire station would see what happened next. David checked his equipment one final time. Tranquilizer gun loaded, medical scanner on his belt, the bag of raw meat sealed in a container that kept the smell contained. For now, last chance to reconsider, Quilvin said through the communicator. David touched the door panel. Open it! The door hissed open. Darkness waited beyond. The emergency lighting was down here, casting red shadows that made everything look like blood. David stepped through. The door sealed behind him, silence, complete and heavy. David stood still, letting his eyes adjust. The maintenance level stretched out in a maze of corridors and machinery. Pipes ran along the walls. Equipment hummed quietly. Somewhere in this darkness, the rift claw waited. He opened the container of meat. The smell filled the air immediately. Sharp, organic. On Earth, this would attract predators from a long distance. Here, in the recycled air of a space station, it would spread even faster. David walked slowly. His footsteps were quiet but not silent. He wanted her to hear him coming. Surprise was the enemy here. Surprise meant fear. Fear meant violence. Every few steps he paused, listened. The station had ambient sounds, air circulation, power systems, water pipes. David filtered through them, searching for something different. There, breathing. Slow and deep. The sound came from his left, deeper into the maintenance section. David turned that direction. He kept his movements smooth, predictable. His heart was beating fast, but he controlled his breathing. Animals could smell fear, could sense panic in body language. The corridor opened into a larger room. Equipment storage. Shelves lined the walls. In the center, the rift claw had made her nest. David saw her before she saw him. She was bigger than he expected. 4 meters, maybe more. Her scales were dark green, almost black in the low light. They caught the red emergency lighting like armor plates. Her claws were as long as his forearm. She was magnificent. Her head lifted. Yellow eyes locked onto him. Her body tensed. David stopped moving. He kept the meat container visible but didn't raise it like an offering. Not yet. First, he needed her to understand he wasn't a threat. The rift claw made a sound. Low rumble mixed with clicking. The same sound the survivor had described. A question. David spoke softly. I know you don't understand the words. That's okay. Just listen to the tone. Her head tilted slightly. You're far from home. You're scared. You lost your baby. David kept his voice gentle, calm. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that happened to you. The rift claw rose to her feet. Her muscles rippled under the scales. She was between him and her nest. Protective positioning. David slowly lowered himself to the ground, sitting cross-legged, making himself smaller, less threatening. He placed the meat container in front of him and opened it fully. The smell intensified. The rift claw's nostrils flared. Her tongue flickered out, tasting the air. She took one step forward, then stopped. It's okay, David said. I brought this for you. You haven't eaten in days. I know, I've been watching. Mothers forget to eat when they're grieving. Another step forward. Her eyes never left David. She was calculating, deciding. David waited. Patience was everything now. Rush this and he would die. Push too hard and she would attack. This moment required absolute stillness. The rift claw moved closer. Her claws clicked on the metal floor. David could see details now. Scars on her scales. Old wounds. She had fought before. Fought and survived. She stopped just 2 meters away. Close enough to strike. close enough to kill him before he could react. David didn't move. The rift claw lowered her head, sniffing the meat, then sniffing David. Her breath was hot. Smelled like earth and rain, just like the survivors said. That's it, David whispered. I'm not here to hurt you. She pulled back slightly, looked at him. In those yellow eyes, David saw intelligence, saw confusion, saw grief. Your baby is gone, David said softly. I can't bring your baby back, but I can help you. I can get you home, back to Draken 4, back to your world. The rift claw made another sound, softer this time, almost a whimper. David felt his chest tighten. This creature had traveled across space, probably in a cargo hold, following the scent of her stolen child, had arrived on a station full of aliens, had fought and killed to protect herself, and now she was alone. You're a good mother, David said. The best kind. You fought for your baby. Nobody can ask more than that. The rift claw moved again. This time she circled around David, giving the meat a wide berth. She was going back to her nest. David heard scraping sounds, movement, then she returned. In her jaws she carried something carefully, a piece of cloth, torn and blood-stained. It smelled like the juvenile, the baby she had lost. David felt tears in his eyes. He blinked them away. The rift claw placed the cloth near the meat. Then she looked at David, waiting. You want me to understand, David said. You want me to know you had a baby. She lowered her head, pushed the cloth slightly toward him. David reached out slowly, touched the cloth with one finger. I understand. I see you. I know what you lost. The rift claw made that soft whimpering sound again. Then she began to eat the meat. Not aggressively, not like a starving animal, carefully taking small pieces. David stayed sitting, didn't move. Let her eat. Around them, the maintenance level was silent except for the sounds of her eating and the hum of machinery. Time passed. David wasn't sure how long. Could have been minutes. Could have been an hour. When the rift claw finished eating, she looked at David again. Some of the tension had left her body. Not all, but some. Tomorrow I'll come back, David said. I'll bring more food. More water. We'll do this slowly. Build trust. The rift claw watched him stand. Watched him walk backward toward the exit. She didn't follow. Didn't attack. At the door, David paused. You're not a monster. You're a mother. The galaxy doesn't see the difference. But I do, he left. The door sealed behind him. Quilvin was waiting. His face showed shock. You sat with it, with her. You just sat there. She needed to see I wasn't a threat. She could have killed you. Yes. David's legs were shaking now, adrenaline leaving his system. But she didn't. Because she understood what I was offering, safety, understanding, food. This is insane. This is trust. David walked past Quilvin. Tomorrow I'll go back. We'll continue building the relationship. It'll take time. How much time? David paused. However long it takes. You can't rush trust, especially not with a grieving mother. Behind them, through the sealed door, the rift claw returned to her nest. For the first time since arriving on this strange station, she had eaten. For the first time, she had met a creature that didn't attack her. That saw her pain. In the nest, she curled around the piece of cloth that smelled like her lost baby. And for the first time in days, she slept without keeping one eye open. On the other side of the door, the galaxy watched through security feeds. Watched and tried to understand what they had just witnessed. A human sitting calmly before an apex predator. Speaking softly. Offering food, they called it madness. Called it luck. Called it impossible. But David called it the first step. 3 days passed. 3 days of David entering the maintenance levels alone. 3 days of the galaxy watching something they couldn't explain. David brought food each time. Different kinds. He learned what she preferred. Brought water in large containers. Brought materials she could use for her nest. Soft fabrics. Warm things. Each visit lasted longer. The first day, 20 minutes. The second day, an hour. The third day, David sat with the rift claw for 3 hours. They didn't do anything special. He just sat. Sometimes talked. Sometimes stayed quiet. Let her get used to his presence. The rift claw began to anticipate his visits. Would wait near the door, not aggressively, expectantly. Like she knew he would come back. Like she trusted he would return. On the fourth day, David brought something different. A medical scanner. Quilvin watched through the security feeds. Watch David enter the maintenance level like he had done before. The Rift Claw greeted him, not with aggression, with that rumbling sound that meant recognition. "Today I need to check something," David said to her. He showed her the scanner. Let her sniff it. "I won't hurt you. I promise." The Rift Claw watched the device carefully. Her body language showed caution but not fear. David moved slowly around her. The scanner beeped softly as it worked. He was checking her biology, her health. Looking for something, the scanner showed results on his data pad. David read them carefully. His expression changed. "Oh no," he whispered. The Rift Claw sensed his distress, made a questioning sound. David looked at her. Really looked at her. At her body. At the way she protected her nest. At behaviors he had noticed but not fully understood. "You're still pregnant," David said softly. The scanner confirmed it. 3 life signs inside her. Small. Developing. The Rift Claw hadn't lost one baby. She had lost one baby and was carrying 3 more. Everything made sense now. The intense territorial behavior. The nest building. The protective aggression. She wasn't just grieving a lost child. She was protecting the ones still coming. David sat down heavily. "You came here because they took your first baby. But you're about to have more. That's why you fought so hard. That's why you killed anyone who came close." The Rift Claw moved to her nest, circled it 3 times before settling down. Her tail wrapped protectively around the space she had created. David pulled up information about Rift Claw reproduction. Gestation period was 90 days. The scanner showed these babies were at 75 days. She would give birth in about 2 weeks. "Maybe less. We need to get you home," David said. "Before they're born, you need to be on Draken 4, in proper environment, with proper food and water and safety." The Rift Claw looked at him. Those yellow eyes held understanding. She knew something was wrong. Knew her babies were coming. Knew this place was dangerous for them. David stood and walked to her nest. This was a risk. A huge risk. The nest was her most protected space. But he needed her to understand what he was planning. He knelt beside the nest. Slowly reached out his hand. Stopped just short of touching it. The Rift Claw tensed. "I want to help," David said. "I want to get you home. To your world. Where your babies can be born safely." She watched his hand. Watched his face. Making a decision. Then she did something that made David's breath catch. She moved slightly. Gave him access to the nest. Permission. David placed his hand gently on the nest materials. Felt the warmth there. "The care she had taken building it, I promise," he said. "I will get you home. No matter what it takes." The Rift Claw leaned forward. Her massive head came close to David. So close he could see the individual scales. Could count her teeth. Could see the ancient intelligence in her eyes. She touched her snout to his hand. Gentle. Careful. Trust. David felt emotion overwhelming him. This creature, this mother, was trusting him with everything. With her life. With her babies' lives. "I won't let you down," David whispered. He spent another hour with her. Used the scanner to check the baby's development. They were healthy, strong, but they needed their homeworld. Needed the specific environment of Draken 4 to develop properly. When David finally left the maintenance level, he went straight to Quilvin's office. Burst through the door without announcing himself. "She's pregnant," David said immediately. 3 babies. Due in 2 weeks. Quilvin stood up so fast he knocked over his chair. "What?" "The smugglers took her first offspring. But she was already pregnant with more. That's why her behavior was so extreme. She's not just a grieving mother. She's an expectant mother protecting her unborn children." "How do you know?" David showed him the scanner results. "These are life signs. Inside her. 3 distinct heartbeats." Quilvin looked at the data. His antenna twitched rapidly. A sign of distress in his species. If she gives birth here on the station, the babies won't survive. Maybe a few days, maybe less. They need Draken 4's environment. The humidity, the temperature, the specific bacteria in the soil. Without it, they'll die. We can't transport a Rift Claw across the galaxy. Yes, we can. David pulled up star charts on Quilvin's display. Draken 4 is 6 days away at standard speed. 3 days if we push. We need a cargo ship. Large one. Environmental controls. I'll stay with her the whole time. That's impossible. No captain would accept that cargo. Then we make it possible. David's voice was hard, determined. I didn't come here to half-solve this problem. I came to get her home. And that's what's happening. Quilvin stared at the human, the soft creature with no claws. No armor, no natural weapons, but right now, David looked like the most dangerous thing on the station. I'll contact the shipping companies, Quilvin said finally. No, contact the Galactic Wildlife Protection Agency. This is an endangered species trafficking case. They have authority to commandeer ships. That will take days. Then we have days. David looked at the clock. Her babies come in 2 weeks. We need to be on Draken 4 in 1 week. To give them time to stabilize her. Prepare proper birthing environment. You're asking for a miracle. I'm asking for what's right. David met Quilvin's eyes. You called me here to solve a problem. I'm solving it. But the solution isn't killing her. It's saving her. Quilvin worked through the night. Made calls, sent messages, used every connection he had. The Galactic Wildlife Protection Agency responded faster than expected. They had been tracking the smuggling ring, had suspected exotic riftclaw trade but couldn't prove it. David's evidence proved it. The stolen juvenile, the pregnant mother, the illegal transport. Within 12 hours, a specialized transport ship was en route. Captain Rivesh, a Corvorian with experience in dangerous cargo, volunteered. His ship had environmental pods. Could be configured for Dracon 4 conditions. David went back to the maintenance level, brought the Riftclaw fresh food, sat with her. We're going home, he told her. You're home. Where your babies can be born safely. The Riftclaw made a sound, different from before, almost like a purr. Like contentment, she understood. Somehow across species barriers, across language, she understood. David reached out slowly, placed his hand on her scaled head. She leaned into the touch. You're going to be okay, David said. All 4 of you. I promise. On the security feeds, the station watched. Watched a human touch an apex predator gently. Watched the predator accept it. They had called humans weak, primitive, reckless. But watching David with the rift claw, they began to understand. Strength wasn't always about claws and armor. Sometimes strength was about keeping promises, about protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. About understanding that a mother's love was universal, regardless of species, and humans, for all their soft skin and lack of natural weapons, understood that better than anyone. The transport ship arrived 2 days later. Captain Rivesh brought his crew to the docking bay. They set up the environmental pod with precision. Temperature controls, humidity regulators, even special soil from Draken 4 preserved in stasis. The pod is ready, Rivesh said. He was tall, with feathers instead of hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. But I need to ask, are you certain you can move her peacefully? David stood in the docking bay looking at the pod. It was large, comfortable. Everything a pregnant Riftclaw would need for the journey. She'll come with me. You say that with confidence. I've earned her trust. She knows I'm helping her. Rivesh made a clicking sound with his beak. Doubt. Riftclaws don't trust. They hunt or they hide. This one trusts. David picked up a container. Inside was her favorite food. Watch. He walked to the maintenance level entrance. Quilvin had cleared the entire route from there to the docking bay. No personnel. No obstacles. Just empty corridors. The door opened. David stepped through. The Riftclaw was waiting. She had been pacing, agitated. She knew something was changing, could sense it. When she saw David, she calmed slightly, made her greeting sound. Today we leave, David said softly. He showed her the food container but didn't open it yet. Today we go to your home. He walked backward slowly, toward the door. The Riftclaw followed. They emerged into the corridor. The Riftclaw hesitated. This was beyond her territory, beyond her safe space. Her body tensed. David opened the food container. The smell drifted to her. Come on. Trust me. She took one step, then another, following David through corridors she had never explored, past doors she had never seen. All the while, David kept talking, kept his voice gentle. Your babies need Draken 4, need real dirt under their claws, real air in their lungs. I'm taking you there, taking all of you home. They reached the main concourse, the large open space in the station center. Normally it was crowded with traders and travelers. Now it was empty. but windows lined the walls. Behind them, hundreds of station inhabitants watched. The Riftclaw saw them, saw all those faces, all those alien species. She froze. David stopped too. This was the critical moment. Too much pressure and she would panic. Would attack. Would run. He turned to face her fully, spread his arms slowly, making himself vulnerable. It's okay. They're just watching. They won't hurt you. I won't let them. The Riftclaw looked at David, at the crowd behind the windows, at the long corridor ahead. Then she made her choice. She walked forward, stayed close to David, used his body as a shield between her and the watchers. They crossed the concourse together, David walking calmly, the Riftclaw following so close her scales almost touched him. Behind the windows, absolute silence. Every being on the station watched. Watched a human walk freely with an apex predator. Watched the predator choose to trust him. A young alien child pressed against the glass. Small, maybe 4 years old by human standards. The child waved. The Riftclaw's head turned, focused on the child. For a moment, tension returned to her body. Then she made a soft sound, almost gentle. Her maternal instincts recognized another young life. Not a threat, just a child. She looked away. Kept following David. They reached the docking bay. The environmental pod waited, open, inviting. David led her to it. This is your space for the journey. It has everything you need. Soil from your world, the right temperature, the right air. The Riftclaw sniffed the pod entrance. Her tongue flickered out, tasting. She recognized something. Home. She entered the pod carefully, explored every corner, tested the soil with her claws. It was perfect. David followed her inside. The pod was large enough for both of them. He had made sure of that. I'm coming with you. The whole trip. You won't be alone. The Riftclaw looked at him. Then she did something that made David's heart stop. She lowered her massive head and rubbed it against his chest. Gentle, affectionate, like a cat, like a dog, like any creature showing trust and gratitude. David placed both hands on her head. You're welcome. You're so welcome. Captain Ravesh watched from outside the pod. His doubt was gone, replaced by awe. I've never seen anything like this. Close the pod, David said. Let's get her home. The pod sealed. Inside, environmental controls activated. The air changed, became humid, warm, like Dracon 4. The Riftclaw settled into the soil, began arranging it, creating a nest. Her movements were calmer now, more natural. She was preparing for her babies. The ship departed an hour later. Quilvin stood in the observation deck watching it leave. Around him, station personnel gathered. All of them had watched the walk, had seen David cross the concourse with the Riftclaw. He just walked with it, someone whispered. Like it was nothing. Like they were friends, another said. Humans are insane, a third voice added. But there was no mockery in the tone. Only respect. Quilvin touched the glass. Not insane, understanding. They understand things we forgot. What things? That strength isn't about force. That intelligence isn't about technology. Quilvin watched the ship become a distant point of light. They remember what it means to live alongside predators. To respect them. To see them as more than threats. On the ship, David sat in the pod with the Riftclaw. The journey would take 3 days. 3 days of keeping her calm, comfortable, safe. The Riftclaw was already asleep. Her breathing was deep and steady. One of her claws rested near David's leg. Not threatening, just touching, maintaining contact. David leaned back against the pod wall. He was exhausted. The past week had drained him, but it was worth it. He thought about his mother, about the elephant she had saved, about the lesson she taught him. Understanding isn't weakness. His datapad beeped. A message from Earth, the Outer Colonies Commission. They had heard about his success, about the Riftclaw, about the walk through the concourse. The message was simple. 5 more contracts, 5 more impossible situations on other stations. Problems nobody else would take. Dangerous creatures, desperate circumstances. David smiled. He looked at the sleeping Riftclaw, at this magnificent mother who trusted him with her life and her babies. Looks like we started something, he whispered. The Riftclaw's ear twitched in her sleep, like she heard him, like she understood. Through the pod's window, stars streamed past. They were going home, a human and a Riftclaw. Different species, different worlds, but connected by something the galaxy was only beginning to understand. Trust, and trust, David knew, was the strongest force in the universe. Stronger than claws, stronger than armor, stronger than any weapon, because trust required courage, required vulnerability, required seeing past fear to find understanding. The galaxy called humans weak because they had soft skin and gentle hands. But right now, crossing space with an apex predator sleeping peacefully beside him, David knew the truth. Humans weren't weak. They were strong enough to be gentle, brave enough to be kind, smart enough to choose understanding over violence. And the galaxy was about to learn what that really meant. Draken 4 appeared in the view screen like a green jewel. The planet was covered in dense forests. Mountains rose from the surface like teeth. Rivers cut through the landscape in silver threads. It was beautiful and dangerous. A world where only the strong survived. David had been awake for the entire 3-day journey, sleeping in short bursts, always keeping watch over the rift claw. She was restless now. Her babies were coming soon. Very soon. We're entering orbit, Captain Revesh announced. The Galactic Wildlife Protection Agency has a team waiting. They've prepared a sanctuary zone. David touched the pod's communication panel. How long until we land? 2 hours, maybe less. The Riftclaw paced the pod. Her movements were uncomfortable, labored. She made sounds David hadn't heard before. Pain sounds. She's in labor, David said quietly. We need to land now. We're moving as fast as regulations allow. Forget regulations. Her babies are coming. If we don't land soon, they'll be born in this pod. David looked at the Riftclaw. She was suffering. She needs proper ground. Proper environment? Revesh was quiet for a moment. Then his voice came back harder, more determined. Hold on. I'm taking us down fast. The ship shuddered as it changed course, entering atmosphere at speeds that weren't quite legal, but necessary. David knelt beside the Riftclaw. Almost there. Almost home. Your babies will be born on real ground. I promise. She looked at him with those yellow eyes. Pain filled them. But also trust? Complete trust. The ship's landing was rough. David felt the impact through the pod. But they were down. On Draken 4, home, the pod doors opened. Warm air rushed in. It smelled like earth and rain and growing things. Smelled like life. The Riftclaw lifted her head. Recognition flooded her body language. This was her world. Her home. David stepped out first. The sanctuary zone was perfect. A clearing surrounded by dense forest. A stream ran nearby. The soil was rich and dark. Natural nesting materials everywhere. The Galactic Wildlife Protection Agency team waited at a distance. They wore protective gear, carried monitoring equipment, but they kept back, giving space. The Riftclaw emerged from the pod slowly. Her legs were shaking, but when her claws touched the soil of Draken 4, she made a sound. Joy. Pure joy. She moved to the clearing center, began digging, creating a nest with desperate urgency. Her babies were coming now. No more time. David stayed close, but not too close, giving her space but being available, ready to help if needed. Dr. Sirius, the agency's lead xenobiologist, approached David carefully. We have medical equipment, monitoring systems. Should we intervene? No, let her do this naturally. Only help if something goes wrong. You've done incredible work, bringing her here, earning her trust. I just understood what she needed. David watched the Riftclaw work. Everyone saw a monster. I saw a mother. The Riftclaw's labor lasted 3 hours. 3 hours of David sitting nearby, speaking softly, offering encouragement in a language he didn't understand but clearly felt. The first baby came at sunset. Small, covered in soft scales that would harden over time. It made a tiny sound, a squeak. The mother immediately cleaned it, nuzzled it, encouraged it to breathe. The second baby came 20 minutes later. Stronger than the first. It squirmed immediately, searched for its mother. The third baby took longer. The mother was exhausted. David could see her strength fading. Come on, David whispered. One more. You can do this. The Riftclaw pushed. Strained, made sounds of pain. The third baby came, smaller than the others, weaker. The mother tried to clean it, tried to make it breathe, but the baby wasn't responding. David moved without thinking, crossed the space between them. Let me help. The mother looked at him, looked at her dying baby. Then she did something that shocked everyone watching. She pushed the baby toward David, asking for help. David picked up the tiny rift claw. It was barely the size of his forearm, not breathing. Its scales were pale. He cleared its mouth gently, rubbed its chest, applied the gentlest pressure. "Come on, little one, breathe." Nothing. David put his mouth near the baby's snout. Breathed gently once, twice, 3 times. The baby jerked, coughed, took a breath. David felt tears running down his face. "There you go. That's it." He placed the baby back with its mother. She immediately pulled it close, began cleaning it vigorously. The baby squeaked. Weak but alive, all 3 babies were alive, all healthy. The mother gathered them close to her body, protected them, loved them. David stepped back. His whole body was shaking. From exhaustion, from emotion, from relief. Dr. Sirius approached. "That was remarkable. You saved its life. She asked me to. How could I refuse?" The rift claw looked at David. Her babies nursed. Her body relaxed for the first time in weeks. She was home. Her children were born on proper ground. Everything was as it should be. She made a sound. The same sound she had made when David first sat with her. But different now. Warmer. Full of meaning. "Thank you." David understood. "You're welcome. Take care of them. Raise them strong." He turned to leave, to let her have this moment with her family. But the rift claw made another sound. Urgent. David stopped, looked back. The rift claw stood carefully, leaving her babies for just a moment. She walked to David, towered over him. Then she lowered her massive head, touched her snout to David's forehead. Gentle, deliberate, a blessing, a promise, a bond that would last forever. David placed his hand on her snout. "I'll check on you. Bring food sometimes. Make sure you're okay," she rumbled softly. Then returned to her babies. David walked away. His job was done. But he knew he would return. Knew this connection wasn't temporary. 6 months later, David returned to Dracon 4. The Rift Claw's babies were growing strong. She was teaching them to hunt, to survive, to thrive. When she saw David, she called her babies to her, introduced them to the strange, soft creature who had saved them all. The babies sniffed David curiously. Not afraid. Their mother had taught them. This one was safe. This one was friend. Back on Station Harmony 7, Quilvin received reports from across the galaxy. 17 stations had requested human consultants for predator problems, for dangerous situations, for impossible scenarios. Humans were no longer dismissed as weak, no longer mocked as primitive. They were sought after, respected, valued, because the galaxy had learned something important, something that changed everything. Humans came from a world so dangerous that it taught them to understand danger itself, to see past teeth and claws to the creature beneath, to find common ground with predators, to choose empathy when others chose violence. The galaxy had weapons, had armor, had technology, but humans had something more powerful. They had the ability to see a terrified mother in a monster, to recognize grief in aggression, to offer trust to creatures that could kill them, and in a galaxy full of strength that made humans the strongest of all. David stood on Dracon 4, watching the Riftclaw teach her babies to climb trees. They tumbled and fell, got up and tried again. Their mother watched patiently. Encouraged each attempt, David smiled. This was why he did this work. Not for recognition, not for payment, for moments like this. Families together, lives saved, understanding achieved. His communication device beeped. Another contract, another impossible situation. A void serpent on Station Delta 9 killing crew members. Security teams failing. David looked at the message, looked at the Riftclaw family, then back at the message. "One more job," he said to the Riftclaw. She looked at him. Understood somehow. She rumbled, a sound like encouragement. David packed his gear, said goodbye to the family he had saved, and headed back to the stars, because the galaxy needed what humans could offer, not weapons, not force understanding, and David would keep offering it, one impossible situation at a time, one frightened creature at a time, one life at a time. They had called humans weak, had mocked them, had dismissed them. But now, when danger came, when creatures threatened, when situations seemed impossible, the galaxy knew who to call. They called the humans. The soft ones. The ones without claws or armor. The ones who walked beside monsters and called them friends. The ones who were strong enough to be gentle, brave enough to understand, wise enough to choose empathy over violence, and the galaxy was better for it.